Good morning. Today we are discussing about the rights and the inclusivity factors of people from the LGBTQ community while there was a time that they weren't even considered a part of the humanity. Yes, we've come a long way. While there is still a long journey and struggle for people from the LGBTQ community to find other aspects, and this is your beginning, but this time we're there to support them. We're there to stand by them because people from the LGBTQ community have clearly proven their acumen, have clearly proven that they're also born with talent, have clearly proven that, they need to be hired basis talent and not basis sexual preferences. VW People's initiative of imparting this awareness, I believe, has gone to long years. And people who will be watching all this, who will be watching all these series, who will be watching all these interviews, will actually get to understand how their life has been and what struggles they've been through. On behalf of VW People's Fraternity, I thank everybody who's come on board with us and shared their journey, and for people who watch the series throughout.
As part of our Business World People Diversity and Inclusion Initiative, today we have very special guests on our series to celebrate this month, which is all about celebrating the diversity that we have in terms of gender and equality. We have with us His Royal Highness Manvendra Singh Gohil, who is the Crown Prince of Rajpipla and erstwhile princely state of Gujarat. He's going to speak about his initiatives. And along with him, we also have His Excellency Deanre Richardson, Duke of Hanumanteshwar, Doctor of Religious Science, and Minister at Universal Life Church of Modesto, California. Welcome on this episode where we are talking about what it means to be really celebrating the Pride. To you, His Excellency, I want to start with you, Manvendra Singh Gohil ji. Of course, it takes a lot of courage. We have heard your story, how it feels like, going out in the open and accepting in a culture like India. But a lot of people in India still do not have that privilege and courage to come out in the open and talk about their own, the way sexuality and, what they feel like. How do we address, where have we arrived? We have the right laws on our side, but how do we address the big gap that is there?
Yeah, thank you, Rohit, for the introduction. Let me begin by saying that I'm extremely proud to be part of the being Indian and to be part of the rich cultural heritage. Having said that, India should be proud that it has the world's oldest sex encyclopedia. That's the Kama Sutra, which was written even 500 years before Jesus Christ was born. Which openly talks about homosexuality, about lesbianism, transgenderism, and yet in our country the basic sex education is missing. So everything boils down to education and awareness, and that's one of the reasons why there is so much of homophobia, transphobia, bigotry, hypocrisy in our country, because it's not the people, but it's their ignorance which I think is to be blamed. And that's the reason why people like us, when we want to come out and speak the truth and be truthful to ourselves and to others, we are attacked, our human rights are violated, we are subject to stigma and discrimination, and all this things happens. And that's the reason why people do not wish to come out and come out of their closet, and they are forced to live a double life. They are forced to get married by their parents to the opposite sex, and that's spoiling so many lives. So we have to understand the situation and act accordingly.
Right, very valid point raised. I'll come to that question later, but at this moment, I want to go to His Excellency, Mr. Richardson. What is your view when you compare what is happening in Asia at large and Indian subcontinent in specific compared to the rest of the world when it comes to the LGBTQ plus rights?
For me, my observation is like within India and within Asia, it's moving quite fast in compared to our time periods in the past. Um, rights are being granted and being won based on constitutional identity versus like here in the United States, rights have taken a long time to move forward based on constitutional rights and going through the courts. So I'm observing the time period being much faster in our current times. So for me, I feel that there's a lot of hope, and there's a bright future for the LGBTQIA community. In India specifically and throughout the Asia countries. One thing that I always remember in my mind is that the youth population of India is the largest in the world. So change is going to be there. The change will eventually come forward. And India's constitution is one of the best and well-written constitutional documents in the world. So executed properly, rights will be there.
Gohilji, I also want to talk to you about your foundation, Lakshya Trust. Uh, what all initiatives have you started, and what all is happening on actually on ground as far as those initiatives are concerned?
Yeah, so I want to share something very interesting how Lakshya started. HIV has started in our country in the late 1980s. And when it started spreading, the government realized that they need to work and partner with groups or organizations who are vulnerable, such as ours. The homosexual and the transgender population. So HIV actually came as a blessing in disguise for organizations like Lakshya Trust, and we began with the government funding and support in the year 2000 for HIV AIDS prevention and control amongst the men having sex with men and the transgender population. This was the first organization of its kind in the state of Gujarat state. Yeah, presently, also 80% of our funding is coming from the Gujarat government under the Ministry of Health. And now we have moved forward with other issues like mental health issues, aging issues. We were the first organization to work for the wives of gay men, because as I mentioned earlier, most of us are married to women. We are working exclusively for the trans rights. We are again the first organization in India to have started a shelter home for the transgender community called Garima Grah, which was inaugurated by the Minister of Social Justice Empowerment himself. So we have gone a long way. Our aim is to how to empower the community, how to make them financially independent, how to give them the social support system. So that's what we are working for. Even on a small way, I have started a shelter home for the LGBT community in the royal establishment of Hanumanteshwar, which is based on the same grounds. So we have definitely got a lot of recognition and awards from the government nationally as well as internationally. And I think the credit goes to a dedicated and committed staff of my trust, which is comprising mostly of the LGBT population.
Mr. Richardson, you also are part of these initiatives. What all change are you witnessing on ground?
Well, at the ground level, for me, seeing the participation from the LGBT community in India, as well as the participation globally, has shifted in a positive way. You get to see a lot more individuals who are in India, who are at that root ground level, who is married already. So they're functioning as a married couple, man and wife, cisgender. And one may identify as a lesbian, or one may identify as a gay male or a cross-dresser. And so I'm seeing a lot more acceptance within our own community towards the different diversities of our own community, being able to bring everyone into the fold, really finding the safe space and giving each other respect, because for a long time within the LGBTQIA community, there has been discrimination and misunderstandings of our brothers and sisters identity. So I'm seeing that coming together as the movement becomes stronger. We are identifying and loving each other and giving that space and grace and respect.
Gohilji, you mentioned about government, supporting it. I mean, how far is government actually supporting such a cause? Because on paper it is definitely. What is the situation otherwise?
See, government's concern is mostly about HIV, and the grant which comes is strictly says that it is to talk about the sexual health of the community. So they are very clear about that. But the good thing is that at least when we started with a government recognition and support, which was a very good thing. In fact, during those times, I'm talking in the year 2000, we had a law which was criminalizing the homosexual act. So it was again a very paradox situation. Many people, especially from the Western world, felt that how can a government support you and fund you, and on the other hand, the same government is also criminalizing you. So it was quite a contradiction kind of thing. But yeah, the agenda was very clear. In fact, I have also been appointed by the Ministry of Health, government of Gujarat, to represent the gay the community, and I sit on the board at the secretariat. And whenever there are any questions, I have been invited when the Commissioner of Health chairing the meeting, and I have been asked questions about what are the difficulties the community is facing in the state of Gujarat with regards to HIV, with regards to sexual health issues. So that is true. I would say that for the trans community especially, government has done a lot more when I compare it to the other countries. I mean, we were one of the first countries to have got the transgender rights way back in 2014 by the Supreme Court. And thereafter also the transgender bill was passed, the Transgender Protection Act was passed. And now government is trying to create these shelter homes called Garima Grah. There are almost 25 of them in the entire country. Lakshya was the first one, as I mentioned in the past. And that has also happened because there is actually a trans person sitting in the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. Her representation is helping the ministry to understand the issues of the trans community and how they could be helped in terms of giving them shelter, food, job opportunities, livelihood, etc., etc.
Thank you, Rohit, and thank you so much. I've been listening to the conversation, and you are so right in saying that representation can go such a long way in getting some rights ahead. Because I was wondering the same thing. Why is it that we are seeing laws supporting maybe transgender people, but not necessarily other members of the queer and LGBTQ plus community? And representation is absolutely one of the big things. I would like to kind of change the conversation slightly and ask you more about the two of you. If you could maybe share with us your story about how you met and how did we get here this far? Tell us about your personal journey.
We met online. I was working as a makeup artist for Christian Dior, so I was like looking for fashion and apparel, and I really enjoyed Manvendra's look, not knowing anything about him, just off a photograph, not knowing that he was the Crown Prince. And we began talking back and forth through social media and about apparel. And then I later found out that he's the Crown Prince of India who was on the Oprah Winfrey show. So I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy that I'm talking with you. Move forward a little bit, we continued our conversations. I flew to India for fashion. He was dating a fashion designer from Delhi at the time. So I flew in, I was greeted and in the apartment in Mumbai. And, I didn't get a lot of time in the fashion and textile industry. So I came back the next year Manvendra was single. You know, I had fallen in love with him. And then the year after that, he introduced me to his father, took me to Rajpipla. And, you know, we didn't really date. I think the older members of his family recognized something very special within our relationship. So it was his grandmother, a great uncle. They both really had an encouraging conversation about Manvendra that he should marry me, and I was on vacation. So marriage wasn't even something that was even in either one of our thoughts. And so during that vacation, you know, they said, nope, this is like what we feel is like, this is what we know to be true. So, you know, the older generation of India has a remarkable way about weaving together relationships and really having like, that's where it's going to be. And there's no other decision that will be made that's finalized. And so, you know, they had a conversation with Manvendra. He went to the bank, he got out some jewelry. You know, we were sitting in his great uncle's palace, and he presented me with, you know, all this jewelry, talking about his conversation about one of his trips he's going on. I was like, wow, that's a really nice ring. And he's like, well, you know, that I got for you if you, you know, will, you know, accept that. And there wasn't like a Western proposal or anything like that. So I put the ring on my finger and I went and sat in the sitting room. And then the older generation, you know, had a whole stream of things that they needed me, that they were asking me, what are your talents? What do you do? What are your hobbies?
Went through the whole Indian process of like, you know,
and
getting into the wedding.
so that was like a Wednesday. They had the conversation with him like on a Wednesday. By Friday, I had the ring, and by Sunday, we had a small ceremony, you know, just with some members of the family. His father was there at the property that they had gifted Manvendra, Hanumanteshwar, with some of the local villagers and some local spiritual leaders. And I was brought into the family. So they didn't really know what would be the right way of doing it, but they knew that I couldn't leave without being, without having this ceremony being done. So our relationship was more chosen from the elders of the family, though
So
I was
saw you
already
and they
there. My
recognized,
heart
like
was
you said,
there.
yeah. It looks like they really saw that, they saw that this was something special, and they recognized that, and they kind of jumped the gun for you guys. They were like, okay, no, you guys are going to stay together if it's been decided.
And I think it made them feel really, really secure, because they always speak of Manvendra as the Yuraj. And then I think that they always worried like what would happen once they moved on with their journey. So I felt like they really felt like really happy and really secure that he now has someone in his life that will be there. And that when they move on in their journey, that's taken care of, because I really felt that they were holding that space for him. Like these other members of his family kind of knew what he went through, what was going on, you know, within the establishment, and they were holding all that up, you know, and really trying to keep that safety, keep that place and space for him. So they kind of passed the baton over to me, given and, you know, and groomed me into some of my what it would be to be in the position that I'm in now. And I really honor that.
And I would just like to add one thing, is that actually we were not even looking for a relationship. We kind of started off with a friendship in the initial stages of our, meeting each other online, and then even meeting in India. And it was the friendship which got converted into a relationship. So I think these kind of relationships are much stronger, you know, where it kind of evolves, you know, it evolves into something in which you had not expected when you started the relationship. So that's one thing. And yeah, definitely I echo what Deanre has to say about the older generation. In fact, my grandmother, when she was on her deathbed, I'd gone to see her at the hospital. She said, now I can die in peace because I know you are not alone, you are with somebody. So I am not worried about you. Definitely older generation, I have seen in India, are much more supportive towards our relations and to the LGBT community than the and of course the young ones also are supportive now because they are aware about many things. It is the middle generation which has problem with us.
No, I
But
mean, you makes excellent
yeah,
points,
so
and you're also coming on
yeah,
your 9-year
I have
anniversary. So
so many examples I can share where the older generation. In fact, I would like to share this another thing. When I came out, the day I came out on 14th March 2006, everything was going against me. The effigy is getting burnt in fire and protests happening all over the town, and my parents disowning, disinheriting. But very interestingly, the Senior Citizens Association of Rajpipla sent me a letter, and there was that time he was a president. He was a 90-plus-year-old guy. He actually told me that we would like to invite you to honor you. And I was more surprised. I said, my God, there are people who are protesting against my coming out, and here this person is wanting to honor me. And they called me on the stage. They were all senior citizens, 80 plus, 90 plus, and they honored me with a shawl for coming out and saying that you have done something which nobody does, and you have been courageous enough to speak the truth and be honest to yourself and others, and for that reason we wanting to honor you. So that was the senior members of Rajpipla who kind of did this. So that's why I tell you that the older generation are much more supportive.
yeah, so on that same note, why do you think that is? Like, what kind of misconceptions do you think this middle generation is kind of working with that our older generation doesn't have? Because it's not. I mean, I'm going to say it's not religion. We don't have anything that says
No, it
anything.
is not just religion, but I think, see, the older you get, you know that your days are numbered now. You know that there are very few days left. So that is the time you come to terms with the reality. See, like most of us are living in this hypocritical kind of world, where we are not ready to accept the truth. We know that there is a truth around us. I mean, it's not hidden. I mean, homosexuality has been there in our culture since bygone era. It is still existing. People know about it, but they don't want to talk about it. It's always a taboo. It's pushed underground. I mean, forget about homosexuality. Even sex is not talked in our country. You know that. So the schools are not teaching. Parents are feeling shy to talk about it. So it's just that we don't accept it. But the older ones, why they are accepting it? Because when you, as I was telling you, as you grow older, you realize that now your days are numbered. So now we need to accept. Even my secretary, now he's 98. He was the first person when I came out to call me and congratulate me that when he read in the newspaper that my coming out story. Even my Guruji, my harmonium teacher, he died at the age of 91. Yeah, he used to teach me harmonium. Pandit Purushottam Valavalkar, very renowned musician of India. He told me at the age of 90 that, beta, if you can provide me a wheelchair, I'm willing to walk in the Mumbai Pride. Can you imagine? So, the older generation definitely is supportive.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. And if you don't mind me asking, you have mentioned how your family has shown so much support, and also your village and the elders. Was it always like that when you came out, or did it take were there anyone where you had to kind of like face a little bit more difficulty or more conversation needed to happen for the acceptance to come through?
See, I would say a lot goes to the work which I have been doing in the past. Like when you are in the royal family, we are always in the public spheres. Our lives are not private, and I have been involved with a lot of social causes much before I came out. Like, for example, I have been teaching yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. I have been teaching yoga to the people of Rajpipla. I've been organizing music festivals to give platform to Indian classical musicians in the palace. Then I've been involved with organic farming, environmental issues, giving job opportunities, doing arbitration for a lot of people. So I've been involved with a lot of social causes. So I think that's what people, I mean, initially they were shocked. They were kind of, because this news was, first time people kind of got this kind of a news, because I'm the first member of a royal family to even come out and talk about one's sexuality. But then later on, people realized, and I remember there was an anonymous interview done, by a media in Rajpipla, to know just the reactions of the people. And the common thing which came out in that interview, that we have no issues about his sexuality, whatever he may be gay, or he may be bisexual, transgender, he is our prince. So that was the underlying thing which came out, and it came out in the media as Manvendra Singh Gohil is the people's prince. That was the news which came out. So I think it is what you do for the people, what are your social involvements, your engagements, that matter more than what is your sexuality and what's your personal joy, personal issues, than anything else.
Absolutely. The impact you make in the world is much more important than what your personal preferences are. And if your personal preferences can make you happier and make you a more positive person in society, then what does it matter, right? But I mean, I do want to go back a little bit. Deanre, you mentioned, you were talking about marriage, and how you had this kind of ceremony together. But obviously, legally in India, that's still not something that has happened. And I think a lot of people also don't really understand why it's important for the queer community to have legal marriages, to have marriage equality. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, marriage equality is a really important, I think in India will be the next important step in terms of the constitutional rights of the Indian citizen, as well as an economical, it would be an economical boon for the India economy. One thing that, like, me and Manvendra had to experience is, because our marriage is not recognized in India during the pandemic, when visas were canceled, my visa was canceled, and I was asked by the government to leave India. And if marriage equality was in place, I would have never have been asked to leave my family. I wouldn't have been asked to leave my husband, my father-in-law, and the community that I lived in, that I have been with since marriage in 2013. But marriage equality, our marriage in America is not recognized by the Indian government. Manvendra is free to come to America and enjoy all the benefits if he would like to, as being married here in the United States. But he doesn't believe in escapism, and he's very proud of being Indian and wishes to stay in India. And I knew that from the very beginning when we first got married, that was not going to be an option ever for us. And so, there are a lot of opportunities for people not to have to go through, hopefully in the future, as things move forward, in the sense of equality doesn't translate, to all the different situations, such as this pandemic that we have went through and are still moving forward through. I hope that in the future, the people who have petitions right now in India, at the courts, will have those heard. I do believe that India's constitution is extremely fair, and I feel like that there's a bright future for that. And the next generation of people, as they come forward, either if it's through the civil code or if it's just through an individual act through the courts, they'll be able to enjoy, that. So when I look down the road and I see, like, where will marriage equality be in 10 years, I probably feel that it's going to be, it will be in place. The next generations won't have to be separate from their loved ones, regardless of what's happening in the world. And having those laws and having those, crossing that that river will also help with mainstream society, because a lot of people will think like, well, if there's something isn't there, if it's not being recognized there by the government, then there also is something wrong. There's some type of taboo. There's something X, Y, and Z about it. So moving forward, within the rights of the constitutional rights of Indian citizens, and pairing that with what's going on socially, in the world, and then pairing that with the economical opportunity, because we already know that lots of studies have
Economical
been done.
opportunity is.
So lots of studies have already been done that any country that still has any type of discrimination, is economically not in a strong position as countries that have less discrimination, right? So,
and you see that a lot in
that
the D&I
population.
initiatives now, because like diversity inclusion initiatives and corporates have become so incredibly important. And actually on that, because we always see that, right? Like this 1 month during the year, all corporates will suddenly have the, the flag up. But there's also like behind it, or they are doing a lot more work. What is your view on the kind of, work that corporates are doing? And what can they do better to kind of ensure that there is diversity and inclusion, especially when it comes to LGBTQ+, because this is not necessarily something that you can see on a person, right? It's not something that, and it's not necessarily that person should have to announce this about themselves. So how do we ensure that we have a workplace environment where people can kind of feel included, feel recognized, and, feel comfortable?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of sessions with the corporates. I mean, entire Pride Month, they have been inviting me last year also, and previous years. And what I have been telling the corporates is that, look, if you really want, LGBT friendly environment, then one of the things which some corporates have already started doing in India is that appoint somebody from the community to be part of the D&I chapter. As we talked about the representation, in the government side. So that way it's a win-win situation. One is you'll be giving a job opportunity to somebody from the LGBT community, which will give that person financial empowerment as well. And second thing is that the corporate will be able to give full justice to the people who are subject to discrimination or any kind of violation of human rights which happened, to create a kind of a balance. So that was one suggestion which I have. Second thing is that to have these kind of workshops, not just in the Pride Month. I mean, yes, the importance of Pride Month is there. It's June. It doesn't come in every month of the year, but it should not be done only in the month of June. Like I've seen, I've told corporates, I said, look, I'm proud that you all are taking up these initiatives, but this should be an ongoing process, because staff turnover is also there. We might have to realize that, today what staff is there, tomorrow some new faces will come. And I was telling you in the beginning that I do not blame the people on these subjects. I blame their ignorance, because our education system itself is at fault. So we don't learn these things in schools and colleges, because I know it is not there. So we need to teach them, we need to orient them, sensitize them about our issues, about the sex, gender, sexuality, in order to create a friendly environment. And if one corporate introduces these kinds of policies and has success stories behind it, they can be a role model. They could be a source of inspiration for many other corporates. That also I have seen. There are corporates in India who have been role models of this sort, and they have inspired a lot of other corporations in India to follow the same policies. And I think that's one of the good ways in which we can spread the word.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and thank you so much for sharing that. Actually, just to wrap things up, I would actually like to ask you, because we will have some LGBTQ plus youths and all watching this, what would be your message to people who are still maybe closeted or are just about to come out about, in India, what would be your message to them who are watching right now?
See, my simple message to them is, first of all, accept yourself. Self-acceptance is something which still doesn't happen to most of us, and we are always, feeling scared to even come out to ourselves. So that should be the first and foremost thing one should do, and try to give an identity if you can to yourself, whether you identify as gay or trans or queer or bi or whatever, there are a lot of terms nowadays. So that is going to help the individual himself or herself or themselves. And then if they wish to come out to other people in their family, then at least from the Indian point of view, I would like to say that we are also mentally conditioned to be attached to parents. I mean, we know we live in joint family system and all that. So the consequences should be faced in a way that you have a good social support system. Because I know a lot of us come out to parents and the parents just show them the door, they throw them out, and that's the time when they go into depression, suicidal attempts, and many things happen because we are so attached to the parents. So they definitely need to be, first of all, financially independent, because most of us again depend on food and shelter from the parents. So that's one thing. Secondly, as I mentioned, social support system. So social independence, that's also very important. So one has to not feel guilty about oneself, which is again another thing which I've seen. But because this is a very natural and normal thing, as a person is straight, similarly a person can be gay or homosexual or transgender or any part of the sexual diversity community. So one should it's normal and natural. So one should be rather proud of one's sexuality rather than have a guilt feeling.
Yeah. And Deanre, what about you? Can you tell us what your message would be to LGBTQ plus youth out there?
My message to everyone is that love wins, and that you are valued. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're not feeling safe or you're not feeling heard, reach out. There are a lot of organizations now in India, in all states, that are there for you. So reach out to an organization, take advice and take the help that an organization will give you. If you're seeking shelter or education, if you're needing food, there are organizations throughout India. And so please work within our networks so we can bring you into the fold, and that you're valued.
Actually, one more question, since you did mention, for those who are parents and friends or a family of someone belonging to the queer community, what can you give any advice to them if they have someone coming to them and telling them this? How should they kind of react and deal with this?
Well, for friends and parents, just love them, just love us, just hold back on what your fears might be of what society is going to think, or what your fears may be in terms of that message that's coming to you. Just support us, just support the individual, and give that love, and recognize how brave it has been for a person to even expose themselves to you in an honest and authentic manner. And then as the conversations move forward, then bring up those other concerns that you may have in terms of safety, of how you're going to move around, or what your job going to be like. But most importantly, when someone's coming out to you, it's a really just be honored, that they find you as a person who they feel confident enough to be able to share something like that. And if you know someone is a community member, and themselves hasn't expressed that to you yet, wait for that person to express that to you. So just continue to give support and love as you would any member of your family, or any friend, or any person that you would be around. Social grace and space and unconditional love, for our neighbors and our friends and family, is always should be always the forefront of our actions.
I also want to add that now in India, there is an organization called Ricard, which is similar to PFLAG in America, which is comprising of parents who have accepted their children from any sexual diversity community, And these parents are doing an excellent job being allies for counseling other parents. I mean, the last pandemic itself in 2020, 21, almost I have managed to get 15 set of parents to accept their children through this organization. So if anyone has, because they have gone through the whole process of their children coming out to them, and how initially they have not accepted, and then finally they have accepted, and how they have moved on with their lives. So these parents can, if a mother talks to another mother or father talks to another father, then that definitely has a great influence on the parents to know how they should accept their children, and to kind of understand the whole experience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for being here today. I think we got a lot of meaningful conversation and a lot of good advice from the both of you. And for those of you watching, thank you so much for joining us today too. We have Royal Highness Manvendra Singh Gohil and His Excellency Deanre Richardson. We have the Prince of Pride with us today to talk more about diversity and inclusion. And this whole conversation has been a part of BW People Diversity and Inclusion Initiative on Pride Month, along with the Diversity and Inclusion Awards. And we would like to also welcome our society and corporates to engage more with the LGBTQ plus community and be more inclusive and have more discussions, because the more we talk about it, the more we learn, and the more we learn to be inclusive and love each other, like you said, and accept each other and understand that this is just one part of a person's identity. It's not who they are, and it doesn't change anything or anything about their personality. They're still the same person, and they're still capable of being a productive member of society. Thank you so much.
Hi, Zainab. Good morning. It's been a pleasure to have you on board. I would like to introduce you to my fellow audience who's watching this segment. So Zainab is heading the D&I segment from Pernod Ricard. We welcome you, Zainab. Today we are talking on a very interesting and enthralling topic, that's hiring basis talent, and not about not over somebody's sexual preferences. So this topic is pretty close to my heart as well. So I did have quite a number of friends who were initially from the LGBTQI community as well, because we've attended a number of seminars. Initially, few years back, I used to see this hesitant level in them for not applying into a corporate segment, thinking that it is very difficult for them to make them understand how normal they are, just like any of us. And they always had this preconceived notion in mind, which was not wrong also, I would say, that organizations were hiring basis somebody's preferences, sexual preferences, and not basis talent, because talent wasn't scrutinized to the extent that they are able to forget somebody's caste, creed, or their sexual preferences. Zainab, I would like you to first of all give us a brief backdrop of how your journey at Pernod, you can claim it as an inspiration for people across. So it is not just people being hired from an LGBTQ community, but people like you who are heading certain segments, and there are others as well. So I first of all lay this question to you to please take us through your journey of how important or how easy or how difficult was it for you to get onto this position.
Thank you, Sugan, for inviting me and having me over to speak to you and through you to our audiences. Let me first, start saying happy Pride to all. And for me, Pride is not limited to a couple of days in a Pride month. It's something that needs to be embraced and celebrated 365 days a year. It's not limited to a month. Now, coming back to your larger question, see, for me, if I actually have to talk about how this entire journey of mine happened. Today, as you see, we are in 2022. More and more bigger businesses are providing workplace protections for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer people. And it's becoming extremely clear that when workers like me can bring their true authentic selves to work, we are more productive, we are more engaged, And there are multiple pieces of research that actually shows that coming out at your workplace increases job satisfaction, the intention to stay, and emotional support from co-workers. Whereas when you stay in the closet, there are substantial costs. And these are costs that are there both for the individual as well as for the company or the organization. As an out and proud trans woman, I must say that I am extremely privileged because of being able to complete a higher education degree, having a master's degree, number one. Being able to communicate with you in a language that you understand, appreciate, and relate to. We'll all speak in different languages, but I think what really truly brings us together is the fact that we can understand the common ground between us. The third part is belonging to the same professional workspace as you. Being part of the corporate has opened many doors for me, provided me many platforms, and your platform and the BW World platform is one such platform that brings us, to propel our voice forward. So when I started off my journey, I knew that I had the privilege of working in a corporate, working in a management position, working in a leadership position, being possible as a woman, being a thought leader in the industry. So today, when I look at myself and I look at my journey within the corporate space, I definitely see it as more hassle-free, discrimination-free compared to many people, because there are people around me. And, whenever you hire someone higher up in the corporate ladder, there are many more HR supports available to you during the onboarding process compared to, say, a normative other job that you may see. Now, having said that, life as a trans person has not been easy, and it's not that I came directly from 0 to 100. There have been various points of convergence, and during these points of convergence, there have been times when there was a pronouns mismatch, there was a name mismatch. Today, of course, all of my documents mention my legal name as Zainab Patel. It's not my preferred name, it's my legal name. My ID card will tell you my gender marker as a female. So if you are misgendering me, you are doing it out of your own ignorance and perhaps your intent to cause harm, right? So for me, it was different. Pernod modified a lot of its onboarding processes to make sure that my journey was smooth, unhindered, and to also kind of create a roadmap for the future whenever we have gender non-conforming, non-binary, or different people who are onboarded with diverse sexuality. This is the kind of template that we need. The template involves speaking the right kind of language, researching pronouns. Like before they onboarded me, they were not sure what my pronouns were, because I've used my pronouns, but sparingly. So they actually started using the pronoun they in order to make me feel comfortable. And then I had to correct them that I appreciate you using a gender neutral pronoun, but my pronouns are she, her, and hers. So that was taken care. Some of the unnecessary medical onboarding steps were removed, not only for me, for every other employee after me, in terms of saying that this is an unnecessary medical intervention. We don't need this. This doesn't add any value. The background verification was done sensitively. There was an issue in terms of my certifications being on my previous male name versus mine. So all of that was sorted out with a couple of minor comments. And I think the moment I was onboarded, my reporting manager, my MD, my team members made sure that they understood my perspective while joining. And when I joined, they not only allocated a long-time buddy, they also made sure that I could see myself grow in the organization. So, nobody does that.
They gave you a growth chart as well.
Yes, they gave me, at least my boss told me, this is what I want you to do in year 1, year 2, year 3, Zainab. And then I want you to move ahead and find something else in the organization that interests you. So the fact is that it is perhaps fashionable to hire LGBT folks, you typecast them into certain
See,
roles.
Zainab, I
But
also feel that these days it is more of tokenism to just hire people from the LGBT community and just make a tick mark that, yes, we have this policy and yes, we have these set of people as well. But as you said, that Pernod has given you a growth chart of where do you see 5 years or 10 years down the line. That's very, generous of the company to not just onboard you, but also showcase you where can you see yourself 10 years or 5 years down the line.
I think that is very, very important, Sugan, because I think as someone who is my level, having worked in a corporate, have my own expectations. See, because when you join a new organization, you realize you're starting from ground zero, wherever you
Very
may
true.
be. And if the organization is not able to show you in a non-business function a career growth, then it creates all the more kind of apprehension. But I'm truly glad that it's been a standard practice in my organization to introduce people, to kind of show them in terms of how, but the specific care that my reporting manager took to kind of tell me that, okay, these are the career paths that you could choose from going ahead, was very reassuring. And I must say that, I did not face any of the usual bullying stereotype. I felt people were more welcoming. People wanted to know more. I set the bar higher for people who come in. So in that sense, there has been a reverse stereotyping.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, to hear, because, it really feels very enthralling to hear that, even if, we're hiring people from a different sect and, you coming out and saying that your process was pretty seamless and that, you did not face any kind of usual stereotypes that you might have had in your mind because you're joining a new organization and because it is I feel that's my personal opinion. It is not easy to make them understand that me, we, you, we are as normal as everybody else. So, please hire, even if you think that, I am from a certain sect, but I am not capable to lead this position, probably you can tell me on my face that, we're hiring or we're not hiring basis your talent. We do not feel right now that by your skill or by your talent, you are apt for this position, as we tell to other, candidates. And I feel now it is a time that organizations are coming out talking about it. This is a massive change. While organizations coming out talking about it, even if it is a matter of tokenism for them, but at least they're onto this position that you, me, every one of us are talking about this in very general terms and not something, that is out of the box. So, Zainab, why do you think that sexuality has become the main concern within organizations while hiring? I wouldn't say that every organization is doing it, but most. But why do you think that sexuality is such a big factor? Why can organizations not hire somebody's skill? Why are they more concerned about what your sexuality is?
That's a very interesting question, Sugan. And I'll actually address what you mentioned in a comment saying that this is as normal as the rest of us. I mean, it's not a question of normality, because normality also, exists on a largest platform. What may be normal for you may not be normal for me, and although we might all. So I'm saying whether we celebrate ourselves irrespective of which spectrum we are in. So if you want to celebrate normality, I also want to celebrate abnormality. I think that is something that makes us different. When it comes to hiring decisions, and let me talk specifically of South Asian culture and of course the Indian context, religion, culture, society, and societal values play a very important role in terms of determining whom we hire. It's a subconscious switch. We prefer, let's look at it like this. When you and I speak, Sugan, we will immediately connect and understand because we may have a similar degree of education. We may have, So our affinity directly goes to an A-list MBA college, an IIM, a tier 1 city. And then we realize that as we filter down, the tier 2, tier 3 cities are not the pools that we want to recruit. So there is a very, very high degree of affinity bias in the way we work. People do not acknowledge it, but it is actually true. We like people who look like us, walk like us, talk like us, behave like us, even if it's subconsciously done. So I think 3 main things here. Attitudes towards sexual orientation or gender identity is a very complicated issue. Personal prejudices, biases, and microaggressions are still very strong. Now, in a country that has decriminalized homosexuality, which has brought protections for trans persons at work, etc., which is moving towards neutrality or prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace, we will still have a majority of people who will say oppose same-sex marriage or marriage equality. You know, a lot of people who are cisgender and heterosexual may feel that LGBT workers should keep their quote unquote lifestyle choices to themselves. They don't need to bring it to work. We don't bring our lives, but the fact is that they don't realize they're talking from a position of privilege. For talent managers, I feel that in order to create a climate that's hospitable for all, your people should be the key goal, boost morale of your people, boost retention, and because there's a larger business issue involved. I think the hesitation is something that I don't feel comfortable about. And that is reflected in my professional decision making. It does, and as you rightly said, in doing all of this, we overlook the talent pool. We overlook building a symbiotic culture of people who come in. See, between you and me, Sugandh, we may bring in the same kind of knowledge, but our approaches to it will be very different. You may approach it from X perspective and I will approach it from X, Y, Z, because my life has taught me, because of the differences that I have faced or discrimination, this approach is, let me take some more risk. Let me be risk, averse in this condition. Let me take a measured risk perspective. So I think our life reality is make us this different person at work. And I feel this is something that is unfortunately only talked about in HR meets, in the process of culture building and employer branding. But when it comes to practice, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand does, or we feign ignorance. And I'm saying this with 100% responsibility, because been there, seen that, done it also. I'm also guilty of practicing it because of some of the organizations where we work in. There has been substantial pressure to only do this much. So I feel once we are able, see, we are at least somehow tackling this on the gender and ability front. I think we need to just drop the pretext that sexual orientation is a big deal. Once we do that, you will realize that this is a great workforce to work with. It's as good normative, as good performative, as good superlative in their work like any one of
and
us.
And as good as bad as other employees. Even if you hire
exactly.
somebody as good as
Yes.
You might have hired me for an X position, and I might not have performed my duties to an X capability that you had hired me with a perspective. So that's normal,
And as you rightly mentioned, good or bad, sometimes when we hire from diversity backgrounds, we set an unexpectedly high standard of delivery from them, which automatically sets them on the crevice to fail. Like, for example, when we bring trans people in, a lot of people say, oh, they're very hardworking, they do extra amount of work. But I meant to say that, why do they need to do extra amount of work to prove themselves? They should do the same amount of work with their failings, with their limitations and their weaknesses.
But Zainab, I feel even if it is not a pressure from an organizational perspective, it is also a pressure of people from this community itself that, they always feel they have to prove their acumen by doing extra work. See, it's in the mind. You have to make yourself adjusted. You have to make yourself accepted. And very unconsciously, it happens that, you work an extra mile so that you get that tag on, people from these communities are hardworking, are going an extra mile, because you are putting in that effort consciously, because you want to feel accepted. And then you also want to get onto that chart wherein people like us or people from an organizational level are claiming that, while you hire people from the LGBTQ community, they will always give in their 200% instead of 100%. So it's a game of mindset also, I feel.
I think it's not only in the proverbial sense the person doing it, but the victim also, that who subconsciously puts themselves in that situation that I need to overperform to be able to be seen as a worthy candidate.
It's a pressure. It is not a pressure that has been delved because of an organization, but people from this community are actually born with it, because initially they won't accept it. It is exactly the case with women. Earlier, when women were not allowed to work, and now that women are working very actively into X number of segments, they try and put in that extra effort because they always feel that they'll be compared to what amount of work a man does. So it's a stereotype, and it is in your head. Zainab, just to lay emphasis on what kind of a procedure or onboarding procedure Pernod has, any one aspect that you would want to highlight, or you think that other companies should also adapt while hiring people from an X community?
I think I'll highlight one point. A lot of us, if they are small or medium-sized organizations, depend on external organizations or agencies for background verification checks.
Right.
I think this is a very crucial way in terms of determining whether the person comes with any kind of risk baggage or has a compliance-related issue.
Right.
And many organizations take background verifications check very, very seriously. If you are able to sensitize your third-party vendor or BGV personnel, that when we are working across a spectrum of issues, whether they identify male, female, trans, non-binary, there may be a perceived difference between the legal name and the preferred name. There may be also, perceived difference between the way how they are presenting themselves. So one has to keep professionalism at an all-time high. When you do a house check, make sure that you check with the person, is this the right time to visit? Is it okay for me to visit? Like for example, and today if I say my name is Zainab, but my family people still use the name Zain, then it's problematic. Then you come searching for a particular Zainab and you realize that there is no Zainab staying in this house. So that your educational records, I think that these are some small tips that we need. The onboarding process, when you start checking in on people regularly, informing them, okay, hi, this is week 1 of your onboarding. So we had an AI driven app which was brought the same amount of messaging with the same amount of frequency for everyone. So I found it great. I could see my updates coming in on to an AI powered bot and tells me, okay, great, this is where we are, this is what we want to do. But periodic check-ins from the onboarding team in terms of telling you, great, we've done this, now this is going to be the next step, especially if you're going to be getting persons on short notice onboarded. Then in terms of day 1, when you've been taken around, you've been told that, okay, this is the culture of the organization, making sure that the person is not overwhelmed by the culture of your place. Cultures, workspaces can be intimidating for a person, for a newbie, especially someone who's starting their career, who's moving from a different environment. People, I guess, these are small fundamental blocks that you want to see. And I think, from a pre-onboarding assessment phase, if you're specifically looking at diversity candidates, let's not look at meritocracy as an argument always. If we were to use that argument, we would never have reservations for women. We would never have affirmative hiring practices. And I think one needs to see a close match of competencies and make it, because if we use the meritocracy argument, perhaps we need to start recruiting 10 years from now, not today. Maybe the next decade we can talk about it. So if you're going to be talking about affirmative hiring practices, let's look at different practices like, skill for hire, matching competencies, trying to bring up people to the level, on onboarding and capacity strengthening of that person. We
Right.
need to use multiple ways to bring people to the mainstream, because if we leave people who are left behind to crawl back to the top of the wall where we think we have a worldview of equality, that's never going to work. Never.
No, you actually have a point when it comes to, gauging competencies. Well, Zainab, it has been a pleasure talking to you. It has been a pleasure hearing your insights and your journey, how, smooth and, well planned has it been in Pernod, and we wish you all the very best. And now that you're heading the DNI segment, we want more and more people like you within the organization, heading few segments, working with you and making Pernod a truly diverse organization in the name as well as in practice.
I just have one message towards the thing.
Please.
For me,
Sure.
allyship is a year-long journey. So when you're engaging LGBTIQ talent, it means you're embracing inclusive and equitable practices. And these are good practices across the spectrum to hire, support, and retain these people. Recognizing and understanding lived experience of someone like me or others can actually make your company be set apart. You make your clear that your brand is doing much more than just jumping the annual Pride bandwagon. So for me, Pride represents a fight for recognition and equality that doesn't disappear at the end of the rainbow on 30th June.
No,
It is something
it
that
won't.
starts and continues.
It won't.
Thank you so much.
We celebrate this month with pride, and we take in notes that for years to come, for months to come, the practice will continue, and next year we'll come out with some new initiatives as well as some new talk points about this community. Thank you so much, Zainab, for joining us and for sharing your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Brijesh. We welcome you on board for our today's Pride Day episode. It's been a pleasure to have you. For those of you who do not know Brijesh, so Brijesh Deshmukh is the HR advisor as well as the DNI lead for Fujitsu India. So we welcome you, Brijesh, on board. For all those of you who are really intrigued at knowing as to what exactly we're going to discuss, so probably today we'll be discussing Brijesh's journey of becoming an ally for the LGBTQ plus community at Fujitsu, and how Fujitsu has been a backbone for him to actually conquer the world and come out onto a leadership position wherein he's actually taking decisions across the verticals for Fujitsu. Brijesh, just give us a brief about, first of all, happy Pride. And just give us a brief about how your journey has been with Fujitsu and what role has this organization played into making who you are today.
All right. So thank you so much, Sugandh, and wish you happy Pride Month to everyone. When we talk about the journey as an become an ally or as an DNI lead for an organization, so the role of organization is definitely an important one. The values of the organization, those are required. And that I can say that Fujitsu has very strong values when it comes to equal opportunities to everyone. And that equal opportunity include everyone. When we say everyone, so that is not only the gender. We are now talking about all gender. That includes everyone, LGBT community, transgender, all we have the place for. Values, vision of the organization, vision of the leadership, and then we who are now actioning their vision and the values to inculcate the culture of inclusion. So to give an example, let's not talk about the gender equality, where that includes women and all. When we talk about gender equality, that is something limited to a one gender. Where we are talking about inclusivity to all gender, so the first thing, the holistic approach we have adopted is like to provide space for everyone where they can be completely themselves and succeed. So this was how the overall philosophy or approach to have the equity and belonging fostered in Fujitsu. And for that, first we understood that okay, we have to inculcate the culture. And how we will inculcate? Inculcating culture is through awareness. First, if I have to, provide equity and have people from LGBT community on board, I have to make my people aware so that they can be comfortable working with them, right? There are stereotypes, there are biases. So we first neutralize all the stereotypes, all the biases, like what exactly the LGBTQ is, why the person, feel as belonging, why the person needs belonging, and how we can make them comfortable while working with. So sensitization for the hiring managers, recruiters, taking the interviews, do's and don'ts in the interviews, then the team managers, project managers, if we have a person with us in a team, how
Okay.
you will behave, how inclusive languages we will use. It's not he or she in the meeting, it's they also is there. So that sensitization we have done.
What do you think is the importance of sensitization within an organization when we are claiming that, we are truly and inclusive or diverse in nature? How important is sensitization?
Indeed, it is very much important, Sugandh. If personally I believe as a DNI head lead for the organization, I think organization, society as well, the only approach is talk more and talk more, so that people will understand. First people will hear, second people will understand, and this is how the role of awareness is, why it is important. Because if I onboard someone and I ask them to, okay, you work with this team, definitely in a society, the framework, people say he and she, but what if they belong to other gender and they? So that awareness, don't say directly he or she, right? The pronunciations are different. So you have to learn about the inclusive policy, learn about the other genders also, how you will be communicating, how you will be addressing. Then capabilities. Say, for example, if I have someone from the community and a team manager, they have the stereotypes about them. And if they are not giving them the kind of the role or the projects, what the person has skills and the capabilities, definitely the person who is not getting that much scope of work will feel lose out from the organization, and they will look out hereafter, or they may not be give their best performance, and directly that is affecting, impacting organization. So sensitization is must for a society to include everyone, because we are human and everyone has a right to live with equity and dignity. And when we talk about organization, it's a mutual ecosystem of business to provide respect and equality to the individual as well as the business case of the organization. So awareness plays an important role.
No, very much, intriguing to know, Brijesh, that, while including people from an X community, how well or how important it is to, first of all, sensitize your own employees as to how inclusive, what is the nature of inclusiveness that, they are need to be behaving with, plus the use of vocab. You very rightly said that, it is very important to know and to behave into a manner wherein the other person doesn't feel uncomfortable. You couldn't be fumbling with words. Are you he? Are you she? Do you address yourself as they, it? I mean,
Right.
this is one of the example wherein a person feels offended. While I am a
Exactly.
woman, you can clearly see that, you have to designate me with a she. But if you're fumbling in either I should be designating you as a he or a she or a it or they, it's offending. And these days for organization and especially for the employees, because they're going to be your peers, while people
Right.
from the leadership position, they aren't going to meet you that often, but you have to work with your colleagues. And if your colleagues aren't sensitized and sensitive enough to your expectations and your feelings, then it becomes difficult. And then you cannot call your organization a truly inclusive one, because your people do not know how to behave.
Exactly. Yes.
So, what has been your experience, British? How was your onboarding at Fujitsu? Were you hired basis truly your talent? We would really like to know, at what position did you join? How did you become the DNI lead at Fujitsu? I mean, see, for people from an X community, it is very important while you onboard them, you have to show them a growth chart. You have to make them feel that, we're hiring you as a normal employee, and this is the growth chart that you can look at while you're getting hired within our organization, because it is a talent that we're buying. We're seeking talent. So we're very keen on to know as to how was your journey, how seamless was your process at Fujitsu.
All right. So the journey, I would say, for me as well as for everyone in Fujitsu is on the similar way. The having on board in Fujitsu as an organization, that is purely basis on the merits. I would say, Fujitsu. The overall approach for onboarding is on merit, and after onboarding, the inclusion and equity, that is something we work out basis the requirement of the person. We have persons with disabilities, gender empowerment, people from LGBTQ community. So then onboarding, it's not just only the onboarding, to provide the culture, to provide the environment. So if I talk about, since we are discussing on the Pride theme, Pride month, so I just want to highlight few things like what Fujitsu has for the community. Fujitsu has transition leave, that is paid 30 days leave for the hormone replacement therapy, sex change therapy. We have maternal leave and paternal leave for both genders, male and female. So what if we have transgender employee associate with us, and if they adopt the child, then we have 12 weeks adoption leave. So this is equity. We are not providing just a equality at work, but we are overall giving them the equality. So where our female employees can avail the benefit of maternity leave, so our transgender employees can avail the benefits of the adoption leave. So this is how the overall approach. When I took up as a DNI lead, so I thought like that, okay, just hiring and giving them to the projects, making sensitization and utilize them at work is not the,
Shouldn't be
it's
just a
providing
matter of
work.
tokenism, as we can say. Yeah.
So where we say belonging, understand the requirements and have the changes, adapt the things in the organization. So the first idea was to have the inclusive policies. So we made all the policies very much inclusive. Our DNI policies, leave policies, code of conduct, equal opportunity policies, all are like a kind of equity. Like understand the requirement of PWD people, make it. Understand the requirements of the LGBTQ people, make it the policies. So these are few examples. Then second thing, we also have, people can include their same-sex partner to the insurance benefits. I think this is what we require as a medical assurance for the organizations. So the overall journey for everyone, Sugandha, is same, basis the merit. And then later on, we provide them the environment, culture, and the assurance that yes, the organization's policies are with them. Whatever they are, be you, just give your best. An organization will give you the best opportunities and the culture and the environment of inclusion. So this is how overall journey at Fujitsu, I can say.
You very rightly, you've claimed that, it is something from your end also that you need to give to the organization for you to get fruitful results.
Right.
While it is important that, we sensitize our employees and we just not make it as a matter of tokenism within the organization, but like any other individual or from any other community, you have to prove your acumen. And if we say that we need to hire basis talent and we need to treat people from the other communities as normal as people from non-special communities, I would say, proving your acumen is a top point, because you can be hired, you can be fired, you can be sustained, retained, basis the kind of talent and basis what ROI you give to your organization, and loyalty, of course. Post-pandemic, I feel more and more hires that the organizations are looking, they need people from a very wherein they prove their loyalty to an extent that, even in adverse circumstances like pandemic, they're there with the organization. If you expect your organization to stand by you in your tough times, as you rightly said, you're giving the kind of leads and policies and not just, inclusion from a name perspective, but from an holistic perspective, then you also need to give something to the organization that the organization tends to stick by you and stand by you in tough times.
Absolutely.
Brijesh, any one or two aspects that you would like to hire from the policies of Fujitsu that you think other companies should also adapt? And we also want to know your parting words of advice.
So, as I said, the inclusion of same-sex partner to the insurance benefits,
Okay.
that is the most thing every organization can have when we talk about now diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So, health insurance, medical benefits are on top, right? So, provide them the security on the health insurance related. This all organizations can look at. I think few of the organizations do have this, but yes, as many as being a corporate, maybe if we can take this further and cascade across all India in INC as well as global level also, that will be a great assurance to people from LGBTQ community.
And there will
Then
be
I
more
said,
and more applicants from this
more and
community as
more
well.
applicants, yes. So, and then understand the requirements when we talk about equity. So we have to understand their thing, what are their requirements. It's just not casual leave, sick leave, as I said, transition leave for the hormone replacement, and adoption leave for the transgender associates if they adopt the child. I think these three things organizations can look at, and if they have, that will be a kind of overall holistic approach, because every organization has equality, equal opportunity. We all say we are equal opportunity employer. We will hire basis merit irrespective of people who are. So as I said, after hiring, give them the feeling of the belonging. And with, I think these three things we can for sure consider as a part of belonging and equity. So transition leave, adoption leave, same-sex partner, including the medical insurance benefits would be good and must to have, I think.
Fair enough, Brijesh. I hope many other companies and the organizers and people from the leadership level who are viewing this talk of ours, they adapt few policies from Fujitsu. And if they already have it in process, I would also urge organization to not just have policies on paper, but also put them to practice.
Exactly. That
it is very much important. While I get hired within any organization, I do see number of policies as an employee, as a candidate, but when I don't see them being put into practice, then as an employee, I wouldn't say ditched, but it is breach of trust. It is something that you had offered as opposed to a very swanky office spaces, but then when we go and see, it is still being filed, it is still in process, not being paid heed to, and it's just become a matter of tokenism. Brijesh, your parting words of advice for our viewers who are watching it. Of course, they'll be enthralled to hear your journey, and they'll be, few of them might even consider you as their mentors, because, people from your level, the struggle wasn't easy. I said that prior as well. It wasn't easy to get onto this position, but I feel excited and enthralled because today we're discussing upon this topic so openly. With the decriminalization of certain sections and, companies becoming inclusive towards certain sects, it is a matter of pride and joy for us, because now we are celebrating who we are in true sense and aren't being even judged upon it. So your parting word of advice for people from this community and for the people from leadership level who will be further hiring people from an ex community.
All right. So thanks so much once again. And so good enough. And, fortunately, we can set out a lot, many things have been happening globally as well as in India. We are, as India, if we talk about, we are not far behind what exactly is happening, overall inclusivity to everyone. And especially if I talk about LGBTQ people now, at least for a metropolitan cities, the awareness is there. People are ready to understand, people are ready to listen, and and people are now ready to embrace everyone in metropolitan cities. But yes, definitely a lot work has to be done across all, maybe countrysides and rural area. But what I can advise, or what I can say to the people from LGBT communities, just be you, be completely you, believe in yourself, and do what you want to achieve, whatever your dreams are. You completely focus on that, and definitely people are ready to accept you, people are ready to embrace you. If you have talent, don't hide it, whatever talent, whichever field you want to go it, be you, be completely you. People will fall short, not today, but tomorrow will accept your caliber, will accept your talent. And
No, actually, and
there is
companies are as well. We'd like to celebrate that
absolutely,
aspect as well.
yes,
We have organizations like Fujitsu, we have organizations like Pernod as well, who are
yes,
celebrating and embracing who you are. And, very rightly
yes,
said, we have to be who we are. If we are born in a
yes,
certain way, embrace it.
embrace
Because
it.
today or
Trust
tomorrow,
yourself.
their
Yes,
organizations will accept you and will also accept the talent within you. And
yes.
hiring will be basis talent and skill and not basis somebody's sexual preferences. So thank you so
Yes.
much, Brijesh, for joining us, for sharing your insights, sharing your journey, and also giving out few pointers to other organizational leaders as well as to that they can adopt certain practices from Fujitsu. So thank you so much, Brijesh.
Thank you so much, Sugan. Nice talk to you, and happy Pride once again to you and
Same to
everyone.
you. Same to you. Thank you so much.
Welcome to this episode that we're doing as part of the Pride Month series in association with BW People and BW Business World. We have a very special guest today. She doesn't need an introduction. We have Miss Poonam Soni, very well known, a celebrity fashion icon, celebrity jewelry designer. She's into many other fields. That's one part of her introduction. She has a spiritual side as well. So, welcome, Miss Soni, to this chat show that we're doing around the Pride Month. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure.
So, my first question is, this month is about inclusion, about equal rights. It's all about acceptance, and celebrating who you are. But a lot of people still have, maybe, they have this societal pressure, or, it's not acceptable to be who you are. What is your view on people who are still not somehow able to accept the way they are in terms of gender, in terms of sexuality?
I think celebrations, so we do celebrate everything. We celebrate religions, festivals, birthdays. But I think our hearts are really not inclusive. They're still divided. At the drop of a hat, you'll find there's a riot happening over some religious problem, over a temple, over these kind of things. So where sexual preferences are concerned, where this community is concerned, I think it's we are not drawn towards inclusivity yet the way we should be. There's still a lot of divisibility. And that is more because India specifically is a country where there are a lot of middle class people prominently and also a lot of uneducated people. Their wealth is their social, I think, status or that is their wealth. So, and they're very rigid and intolerant. They're not willing to change at all. They're not prone to change. So when their equation is shaken up even a little bit, there's a pandemonium. So when this kind of disharmony within the mind exists, non-acceptance, I think the people who are from this community, they feel very shunned and very ostracized. So उनके लिए तो एक like complete fear हो जाता है that I should just keep this closeted, and they don't like to come out of it then. But having said this, I think if you the recent example you remember of Victoria Kolakowski, she was a transgender judge who was coming from America. She was denied a visa. So if the country is going to respond like this, there's obviously they are creating divides. When this kind of a, I think, situation has existed from times ever. I don't know if you know, but Alexander the Great, that ruler, he had male preferences. Some very powerful personalities like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, they were all preferential towards males. So this kind of ostracizing is existing. But I also have another take. I feel even these people who are slightly different, sometimes they, because of frustration which is built in them, they also don't behave normally. They also tend to, sometimes react very sharply, and they scare people. So I think it's a balancing which is to be done in both the sections. They must merge. These
Right.
kind of people have to be embraced.
One good thing that our government has done is they have decriminalized Section 377. But I think it's not just about legislation. I think it's also about mindset, about cultural change. That want to do.
See, 377 in any case was something which should have never come into force. It's totally divisive, as I said to you, because it's about, I think, shunning sex which goes against nature. So that is completely against the freedom of a human being. It's entering your private life, entering your bedroom. I think anything which is judgmental, which is so defunct, that should be criminal. But having said that, it's decriminalized. But I think our hearts have to be more progressive. But this progress is happening, Rohit. Somewhere I feel that a lot of corporates are taking a front step. Like I was reading about a very inspiring incident. The millennials especially. When you take the millennials today, I don't think there are any divides in their hearts. Because I have been seeing a lot of TV shows. The OTT platform is really, really powerful. And I was seeing this show called The Bold Type. It's on the Cosmopolitan X editor. And there is this girl who calls herself, on a social status, she calls herself a lesbian, gives a name and her identity as that. So, and then I've seen it in many other films as well. So the OTT platform is becoming a very big platform to kind of, merge things together and be inclusive. So, recently we even watched this film, Chandigarh Ki Aashiki, where Vani Kapoor played a role where she was a female trapped in a male's body, and she took a sex change. She was the heroine, the protagonist in that film. And the film ends with a happy ending where the boy and his family accept her. That is a huge change. People even went to the extent of criticizing Vani that why is she ruining her image. But I would say kudos to her. If there are more leaders like this who take such bold steps, I, for one, have a lot of friends, Rohit, who are from this community. They're really good friends. Some of them are very, very popular, famous. They've done very well for themselves. They're not at all ashamed to talk of their preferences and their individuality. And I think I really respect them for that. And by the way, they make excellent friends. Because I think there's so much compassion in them and they really make good friends. And their fashion sense is excellent. Because having tasted both, I find like a lot of them are fashion icons. So I think it's a great step forward.
One point, Ash, I just want to bring this point back. You gave the example of this movie Chandigarh Ki Aashiki. It's also, about popular culture touching upon these so-called taboo subjects, and mainstreaming them. I think somewhere it's a reflective of the progressive mindset. Do you agree?
Totally. In fact, that's what I said, that I agree so strongly with this, that I think the actor and actress who played in the film, they took a very big, very bold step. And I enjoyed the film because it is anything which is progressive. I think you enjoy to see that because it's bringing about a change in society.
Right. I also want to ask you this question that, you, as you said, a lot of your friends have openly come out and spoken about their sexuality. But, I think we were doing a series of interviews the other day, and we still, it is like across India, there are many people who are in a traditional marriage and they might not be the same, the gender they are because of societal pressure. So how does this conversation go from metros to India, to Bharat, for example, in your view, what are the things needed? Do we need more strong law? Do we need more awareness? to tell people that it's okay, you guys can come out and talk about it?
No, I don't think we need strong laws. I think we need people. Because laws is something which is like making it even more divisible. कि ये prominent, उनकी, their identity is becoming more prominent. No, I think it's about just accepting. For me, I would say if I want to bring about a change, it has to start from myself. And can I have this person as a friend without being judgmental? I can. So yes, first we are talking of the cities, where in the cities, forget this community. Children are not even willing to get married today. A lot of them, they just stay in relationships. It could be of the same sex, it could be of a different sex. So that progression has happened. And you give them that choice, that it's up to you. You're not forcing them. And where villages are concerned, I think the middle class values I talked about, I also want to talk about education. That education plays a huge part. And the other thing which plays a part is that do you have the courage to accept this? So if I come out openly as a leader and say that, I have friends from this community, a lot of people will accept them. Because people somehow tend to be very cowardly. They don't. Villages I remember coming back to your question, there was another film made on Rajkumar Rao and Bhumi Pednekar recently. I forget the name. So, because of society pressure, they got married to show their families they're married, and both of them had independent partners. So when they took such a bold step, the families loved their children at the end of the day. Even though they bend under social pressure, there's a lot of love for the kids. So they accepted them to. That I thought was a which it was bringing about in villages. So I think OTT platform, movies, journalism, what you're doing today, highlighting these interviews. I think journalists have a very strong, they say the pen is mightier than the sword. They have a very strong responsibility. So when these things are coming out in the light, it's definitely going to be a progressive change. Also, you do know that, I was reading somewhere that the Tatas, they brought about a huge change when one of their employees, I think she was trapped in a male body. So can you believe they paid for the entire surgeries to do the sex? So from Suresh, she became Tanushka, the girl. And she was not shunned by her colleagues. She was respected for her courage. And a lot of corporates, like even I heard there was a group of IBM people who are now making the neuter gender bathrooms. They're having neuter gender clothes. And I think bisexual clothes, jewelry, it's all getting very popular. Something with male and female, they can use the same perfume. They can use the same style of clothing. Somewhere happening very, very strongly.
Right. I have two more questions. One is you spoke about education. Of course, I think we need to sensitize. People right from early primary education about this. Do you think we can do better than what we are doing today on that front?
I think so, yes. Because what you brought up is a very, very valid point that, many, many years ago, they started sex education at a young age. So that when, young out, it was to bring down the cause of rapes and, this frustration so that all these crimes would be less. I think similarly, there should be education on this sexuality differences, and so that they are taken as very natural. It's not something unnatural. I mean, a human being can be born this way or that way. It doesn't make him categorizing into different categories. He's just made that way. He will have the same potential as the other person. So even where jobs and where preferences in corporate houses, etc., are concerned, I don't think they should be based on reservations at all. They should just be based on talent and potential. So the person who is from a different community should be treated equally. that is when their frustration, in fact, will go down and their potential will come up that, oh, I have an equal chance of getting this job, so let me show my potential. So education in schools and colleges about this, yes, absolutely important.
Right. I think also somewhere the policymakers who termed it as sex education, I think maybe they put it so strongly across that people stopped, reading it. In our cultural mix, it's a very taboo word. I think they would have called it maybe gender sensitization or something else. When they labeled it like that, a lot of people did not really, see it as a progressive move, and that's why we still, are struggling with that part. But my final question is about workplaces. So I think everyone has a responsibility, as you said, to be gender equal, gender neutral. At your, in your company and the friends you have and the corporates do you think now people are looking at pure talent, irrespective of what gender, they are?
Absolutely, I think so. Because I think I wouldn't even look at the background. We would look at their talent purely. And of course, the background you do look at, but, whether the person is, what is their preferences in their individual sex, gender, I don't think that even counts. And I don't know any of my friends or corporates where that is labeled as a thing of not giving. In the corporates also, as I just mentioned before this, on the contrary, they're getting sensitive to them because don't you think, I think as a boss who was hiring someone, if I take myself as an example, I would look at the fact that what is the potential of this person? Can he make my company grow? And if he has that tremendous potential, how do I care about his, preferences? I'm not going to hire someone who's got lesser potential just because I'm being non-sensitive to their issues. I think that is something which I feel is not happening, and that changes, at least in the metro cities, has happened to a large extent.
Right. My final question is, this month, as I said, is all about celebrating this diversity. What is your message to people at large who are, what you call the mainstream, and people who are in the closets? What is your message to both these groups?
My message is like, coming down to the basics, I feel it depends on the person themselves. As I just told you, the society can do a lot, the corporates can do a lot, your family can do everything, people around you can embrace you. But are you ready to have that strength and get embraced? I think do you have the confidence in yourself? The world is open. You can go and take education. No one is stopping you. You can go and hone your skills. No one is putting any bifurcations there that you cannot join this industry or that industry. So the individual has to have that confidence, conviction, and strength. And they have to just be themselves. If you are going to try and be frustrated or unhappy and then leave, that will ripple into the environment, in fact. So the others will shun you for that. But if you're a happy person and you have confidence in yourself, the environment will embrace you. I think it starts with the person. Now, going to the people in your environment, I think it's for them to embrace everyone and I don't believe in divisibility in any form at all. As you just mentioned, yes, I'm a Buddhist, and I strongly feel that I am a microcosm of the macro, and each individual is the same. There is no difference at all. Whether it's Jews, Christians, sex, gender, neutrality, whatever you take, whichever sector you take them from, purely equal. So I think we must just learn to live and embrace.
All right. And thank you so much, Ms. Soni, for sharing your thoughts. I think we need leaders like you to talk about it, to make people aware of it, we need to they're all normal people out there, and we are all together, we are all one, we have equal rights. I think this awareness is spreading through our popular culture, as you said, through people, through fashion icons like you, and I think more is to be done at the same time. And at BW Business World, the very fact that we are doing this series shows that, we believe in gender equality. But thank you so much for joining us on this
I
conversation.
think thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to do my little bit for this. It was great. Thank you
Pleasure.
so much.
Welcome to BW Business World. Today I have with me Rohit K. Verma, reality TV star, public figure, and fashion designer extraordinaire. We're here to speak on BW People D&I initiative on Pride Month. Welcome, Rohit. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me out there. Thank you.
Yeah, Rohit, tell us, how have these last 2 years been for you? I mean, the world has been turned completely upside down.
Well, for me, it was very tough because, as everybody knows, I'm a complete social butterfly. But the pandemic has completely broken me inside out, because I'm a kind of person who believes in, spreading love. I'm a kind of person who wants to socialize. I'm a kind of person who loves my work. And I'm very fortunate enough that Lord Krishna has given me the job, which I love doing it. So I think I was really, my hands were tied. I could not do anything. I could not step out of my house. But it's still, social media, Facebook Live and Instagram Live and other platforms kept me busy. But still, obviously, we all were glued to our televisions and we were talking to our friends. But stepping out the house became like a big thing for us, because we were not allowed to even step out of my gate. But it became very tough. But touch wood, my society has been very kind enough, where my friends used to come and visit me at weekends. So for me, it was okay. But that I live my life. I am always traveling abroad, and it is it was okay. Like, for me, it was tough, but also simultaneously, I enjoyed for being me, where I discovered myself and what are my weaknesses and what are my strengths are. So pandemic has also taught us a lot of things.
No, definitely. And it has completely turned businesses over. So from a professional point of view, how has that sort of been for you?
So professional, I signed up with a couple of apps, which was my bread and jam, was going on through them. Until TikTok got banned. But professionally, yes, people have cut down their budgets of the wedding. A lot of weddings got cancelled. I had so many bridal orders. Everything, I had to refund the money to people. Few people took money, few people did not take money. So obviously, business, it's not big, only me. I think it's worldwide. Everybody got everybody's business got suffered. But I guess it's part and parcel of life.
Yeah, but how is it going now that things are opening back up?
Things are shaping up well. Things are becomes market slightly opening. People are started, stepping out. People started, but people are now very careful. They see their pockets first before spending any kind of money. Before, they never used to, see the price tags. But now we have people have become very conscious of where they are splurging, how much they've spent, and they have cut down their budgets of the weddings. So obviously, all the designers have to design according to them if you really, really want to survive in the market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And after coming this far, having built your business over so many years, to have that kind of a disturbance come in all of a sudden can be quite demotivating, I imagine.
So, it also blocks the creativity of a designer. If you see, I always lived my life, and with my clients, I always wanted to give them best. But sometimes, when clients don't have a budget, you need to cut down the budget. You need to cut down the cardigans. A lot of laborers have gone to their villages and are not returned. So obviously, fashion designers are really suffering across, and I have been a couple of makeup artists. I think the business has been affected big time, and but what matters, we realize it that every individual, knows that how much he is or she's going to splurge in the wedding. So obviously they gave us budget. Before, there was no limitations to us, that okay, they had barriers, but now they give us budget and we have to work around.
Right. There's a lot more awareness, and I think you're just talking about it right now. You're also trying to work with people, and there's a lot of social awareness around things like finance, sensitive stuff that people don't necessarily talk about. The last 2 years, Pride, we've still been celebrating Pride Month, we're doing it this year as well. How has that celebration kind of changed? Everything was moved online. Did you see any kind of a difference? Did you feel like there was more awareness, more sensitivity, or do you think that kind of stayed also?
Pandemic, a lot of people came out of the closet. A lot of people started talking about their sexuality. A lot of people like, started enjoying among themselves, because you were spending time with your parents, you were spending time with your people, So the thing is that as a person, I believe that every individual has got their limits. Every individual want to live life they want to be liberal. It's just like, there are few people who come out of the closet, talk about it. Some people don't talk about it. It each depends person to person, to each to his own. So I always believe that this is the month where we celebrate love, where we celebrate gender equality, where we celebrate human. There's nothing bigger than humanity. So I think Pride Month, it's the awareness, like it's a Western thing which is coming to our India, but a lot of people are knowing about the Pride thing. Like I wore a couple of days back, I was in mountains, I wore a Pride gown, and I was gallivanting there, and Viral Behani posted he shared the link of a Pride Month. So obviously, social media and the interviews where people talk about it and people know what Pride Month is all about, because still a lot of rural areas of India, people don't know what Pride Month is. So obviously, it's about love. It's not about anybody's sexuality. It's about a humanity. How one human celebrates with another human.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about the family unit. I think that's a really important thing, because even though a lot of us in India live with our family, we don't live with our family. Like, we're not constantly talking to them about these things. Exactly. Do you think that that'll kind of also help let people kind of be more open with each other, because we were in a situation where
obviously when you spend time with your parents so much, because of the social media, because of everybody is so gadget freak that we don't get time to spend with each other as a family. The love is all missing. So when you sit down with your family, talk about your problems, talk about your sexuality, I think, because of the awareness of social media also helps a parent to be a better understanding during that time. And during the 1996, when the things were not so open in our country, it was very tough for us to talk to our parents. But now, thing is that the parents are also becoming very liberal. Their mindset, they're accepting the children for what they are, and you can always talk about it. Even if you become a mother, your son comes and tell you about his sexuality, you will embarrass him and hug him and accept him with his orientations.
No, absolutely. That's a really good point to make. And actually, I did want to ask you, since you do travel and you are obviously in touch with so many people, how do you think it's different for an Indian family unit when it comes to dealing with these kinds of sensitive issues?
But the thing is, like India is also progressing into when it comes to LGBT community because of social media awareness. But still, I want to share one thing. I was a couple of days back, I was in Haridwar, where I was taking bath in Ganga, and I wore a sari in front of like 2,000 people, and trust me, nobody even commented on me. Nobody called me a dirty girl name. Nobody commented. They were very, very astonished and amused seeing the aura of mine. Like my friends say, Rohit, you have got a very different because you have been part of television and all. I believe people have started, accepting it. People have started, understanding that there's a third gender also exists. All right. So I think so. India is not very far where people will be, the people like us will be also respected in the society. And it is very important for parents. It's important for the generation, to the youth to come out of it and, accept each and every individual, because as I said, love has no gender, soul has no gender. And I think so that's more important. And, every time when you go to a gym, my strength has never come from lifting the weight in the gym. My strength has always come within my own self whenever life has knocked me down. Till time you will respect you respect yourself, okay, you will never get respect back.
No, that's very true. And the next question I'm going to ask is a kind of a bit of a big question, because I know you've been in the public eye for a very, very long time. Because you did mention, as a celebrity, people do say, like, the way people receive you is different from the way someone will receive someone who's not in the public eye. So for you, what kind of differences, have you noticed a difference in that before and after? I know it's been a long time. So
sorry, cut you out there. I have led my life with I was always very bold and unapologetic personality. I have never cared for the society, because at the end of the day, you have to run your own kitchen. Nobody running your kitchen. And your life is not qualified by fluent English or a branded clothes or a rich lifestyle. Life is measured by the numbers of people they smile, after hearing your name. Okay. That man matters a lot, that matters a lot. that matters, that how you are as an individual. You know your karma, what you're doing. And for me, I have lived my life with my terms and my conditions. I have never cared what world talks about me, because I am a self-made person. I come from a very literature background too. But my dad never wanted me to become a designer, because this is what I wanted to do. I always have my head on my shoulders. I always lead a life of honesty and dignity. There's a pride flag outside my house, and that's the biggest thing one can have, because you should be proud what you are. Even if I want to wear a skirt, if I want to wear a makeup, I want to wear a gown, I don't care. It's my life, darling. And every time you need to, your happiness lies in your own hand. If you don't respect yourself, people will not respect you. So it has to start within your own self.
No, thank you so much for that, and congratulations on honestly, it's amazing hearing you speak about this. You're right. You need to be proud of who you are.
Darling, I'm open book. You can call me any questions. I'm not very ashamed of asking or for telling you the truth, because that's what matters a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're lucky to have people like you out here to inspire us all, honestly. But tell me about Bigg Boss. What made you want to go on that TV show? And how was it?
Basically, I did not do it because I was not prepared for it. But when I won the Asian Style Award, all right, and then it was and then Mr. Bachchan called me up. He said, the high time you get inside Bigg Boss house. And that's how I decided that it's time for me to enter the house, because I was mentally prepared. So I was a kid when I went to the Bigg Boss house, and it completely changed my personality. It's completely changed me as a person, because I started realizing things that, as a human, what matters. And Bigg Boss is not scripted. If you ask me this question, Bigg Boss, it's a very true show. So you need to realize certain things that, when you take a decision, you should not regret.
Yeah, you were in quarantine before quarantine was a thing.
And I was in quarantine, not for actually for 1 day. Yes.
So, and how was it afterwards? Because that's a huge platform.
Yes, people started knowing what Rohit Verma is all about, and that's has been my journey. And obviously, the reality shows, you become a household name. Reality shows give you the platform where you are into the pedestal, where you talk about your sexuality, you talk about everything. People know you more closely, and it's a very beautiful way you can connect with the audience.
Do you ever have young people coming up to you wanting to share their story?
I get DMs from people. They want to be like me. They want to know what I do. They want but for me, what is important, every individual has got creativity inside him or her. It's just you need to discover that part.
Also want to come into Pride Month has also become a very corporate affair in the recent years. Every corporate wants to get behind it. That 1 month of the year, they want to flag the flag.
Not our country yet. We have to get there. Not in our home country. It's high time that we start celebrating love. It's high time we start celebrating Pride Month in our country too. Yeah. So obviously in America and all, I've attended Pride Parade and all, but India is still a little laid back when it comes to it. Maybe, hopefully, coming 2-3 years, when a lot of people will come out of it and talk about it. Roads will be decorated with the pride flags and everything. We will celebrate this as a festival.
Yeah, and so tell me, diversity and inclusion is also a really big agenda for a lot of companies right now. What would your advice be to companies who are trying to get more LGBTQ plus inclusion happen? So this is not something you can necessarily see on people, right? Not everybody, you can't just look at a person, not all the time, you can't just see someone and know that they belong to this community. So there has to be sensitization among everyone to make sure that you're not discriminating or making faux pas.
Discrimination always comes within your own self. Like I said, I am a kind of person who has always lived a life with my terms and conditions. So if you allow people to discriminate you, they will discriminate. All right, but you have to make your aura so strong when you enter. People should look upon you, not look down on you. But it is very important for you to realize your strength and your weakness, and then when you implement on your aura, and things becomes very easy for a person to move on the society with their sexuality and with their head up on the sky.
So what do you think about all these kind of sensitization programs that, companies tend to have? Do you think like they're working? Do you think they need to be improved, or are we not doing enough? Do we need to
More
do more?
awareness should come out, more companies should come forward, more people should come forward and support, LGBT and celebrate Pride Love, because Pride Love is not about the gays or lesbian. It's Pride Month is all about love. Pride Month is all about humanity. A lot of people don't know about the awareness what Pride Month is all about, but interviews like this, when we do it, it will create an awareness that love, which has got no gender, pride has got colors, and every individual is here to be loved and to be given love.
Tell me about your own business. How did you get into becoming a fashion designer? How was your journey? What kind of challenges did you face?
Like I said, I'm from a very literature background, but this is what I wanted to do in my life. This is what I wanted to do something very different, because the kind of a place I come from, the kind of land I've come from, our father is an engineer, son has to become an engineer. Father is a doctor, son has to become a doctor. But the thing is I wanted to do this, all right, and I was decided this is what I want to do, and I took my decision. I just moved out of my house.
And how did that go for you? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Every profession you have to struggle. My journey from dark lanes of Allahabad to the escalator of America has been a very roller coaster. I have enjoyed every bit of it, and since I'm a follower of Lord Krishna, and I think he has always held my hand and showed me the right path of life, I kept on walking on the right path, and here I am in front of you talking to you.
On the other side, how can people be better allies?
God helps those who help themselves. Okay, like I said before, my strength has never come lifting the weight in the gym. My strength has come within my own self whenever life has knocked me down. So it's very important for an individual to understand that what is their happiness and what is his mental peace. All right. Till the time you discover yourself and you've been living a life of a discrete person, you will never get mental peace in life. So you have to understand your happiness. You know what your strength, you know what is your weakness, and then you have to, and then the wings will come off. All right. Then you can fly high in the sky.
And but what about we're talking about small Indian families who have a very sort of a.
It's a responsibility is what we have to do, but end of the day, you have to help your own self. You need to do your duty towards your family. I'm not denying the fact, but end of the day, nobody can rule on your head. So you have to sit down with your parents. You have to talk to them. You have to talk to them about your happiness, about your mental peace. All right. But I think people are becoming very understanding. This generation parents are very different than ours. So I think they understand their children. They understand their psychology.
And you think the same thing is also for maybe companies also? Do you think they better understand the psychology? But what would your advice be to people who are still not coming out yet? Do you have anything you're on this platform? Any youth who's watching?
You have to believe in yourselve and always believe give to the world the best you have. The best will always come back to you. If you're not true to your own self, you're not true to your own being, it's not worth for you to living on this earth. I believe you all have to come out, speak about it, speak about your to your parents, speak about and I think so nobody will kill you. It's not a crime. Being a gay is not a crime. It's your individual decision. And even Lord Shiva was Untitled. Okay, every book has mentioned homosexuality and gays are coming from the Akbar and Birbal time. Right? So what's more important is understanding your own self. When you understand your own self, world will be the better place to live.
But what about education? Do you think there should be in schools and stuff, should we be discussing this more?
Teachers should be more awareness about the third gender. I think they should introduce a lot of subjects to it. I think a lot of books to it. I think schools should start educating people, but gradually it will take time, but the thing is it's not very far.
But I think we still have a long way to go as far as changing our language regarding discussions around these topics. And before we close this conversation, anything else you would like to?
I would like to say that life is very beautiful. You need to enjoy every color of it. Pride is something which is within inside every individual. Every individual has got a rainbow. All right. You just need to recognize that rainbow, and that rainbow that comes out from the pores of your body, and life will be a very, very beautiful place.
Do you think inclusion in the fashion industry is different from other industries? And if so,
I don't
how?
think so. I don't
No?
think so. I think it depends person to person.
Is that, do you think that's an Indian concept, or do you also think that applies to international?
No, I think so. It applies globally. Like it applies globally how you take things as. Some things are very beautiful. If you take things as very beautiful, it will look very beautiful. If you see things in a little abstract manner, it will look very beautiful. It depends each person to his own.
Do you have any stories or instances that you can share with us about your own personal journey?
It's all of my Insta story, Instagram. I'm every day is a story. Every day is a new chapter of my life. Every day is a new story. Every day is a new beginning for me. So I celebrate every day, darling.
No big momentous moment that we can kind of hear about?
Oh, I don't know. I've always been a very open book.
Thank you so much for coming here and taking all the time to speak with us.
Thank
I know
you.
you're very, very busy. I can see that you're traveling right now as we speak.
Thank you, darling.
Well, now under the DNI initiatives of BW people in association with BW Business World, we've launched something called Pride Series, Celebrating Pride. There are undoubtedly a variety of methods to observe Pride Month. There are many options for celebrating Pride Month, whether you want to keep it low key or go above and beyond with something grandiose. This is a perfect time to be reminded to locate people that you love for who you are and let them know how much it matters whether you live an LGBTQ plus lifestyle or you just want to be supportive. Now, Pride Month is seen as a significant occasion that traces the progress of the LGBTQ plus community towards global acceptance. Even while it is now more universally accepted than ever, history may provide a detailed explanation for why this was not always the case. Each person should use this opportunity to celebrate their individuality and the gifts they have to give the world during Pride Month. BW People has thus launched an initiative to raise awareness of the LGBTQ plus community and the various ways that everyone may participate in and celebrate Pride Month with pride.